Hello, welcome back. We are working on our first signature and it will fit here on the left inside panel. This is the piece that I chose to work with. This is the reverse side. There's kind of a reason why I chose this, and I'll show you here in two shakes. We're going to make a pocket. This pocket, I'm using a die that I can actually cut the die right into my paper. So my die is, by the time I lose, is 1/2 inch because I lose an inch when I trim. So at 1/2 inch, if you have a long die that's at least that thick, then that's great. If you don't and you have a punch that works, that's awesome too. But the reason I'm sharing that with you is the overall height of this pocket needs to be at 3 inches before you use your die or your punch. Now, if you don't want to use a die and you don't have a punch, you can leave this at 3 or you can reduce it down to 2.5 and just not have a decorative edge on it. It is going to be at the 8.5, which is going to be the measurement on this. So I'm at 8.5 inches by 8 5/8. So 8 5/8 by 8.5. So this is going to sit down here. Now, you will be cutting into a piece that has this checkered, I don't know what you want to call it. It reminds me of some accounting paper. But on the reverse side is this. Now you will be cutting into it, so I'll show you what I'm going to do here. And then the next piece we put together, you will have this piece to work with. Now, when we first made the album, on the outside of the album, we actually cut into the very center, and that's what we worked with. So off of this piece, I trimmed out the top that says Time Machine, and I'm going to mount it onto some black cardstock, and it's going to go here as an accent here in the center. I'm going to go ahead and put mine together, and then when we cut the other trim pieces, you can come back, rewind this, and come back to this so you can see what I did. And right now for this first signature, we are going to be really playing with a lot of scraps because we really haven't made additional signatures yet at this point, so we don't have a lot of scrap paper to play with. All right, so I am going to glue these two pieces together. Oh, I forgot to tell you how high this is going to be. I think it's, come on, before that sticks. Come on, come on, come on. Ah, did I get it? Okay, I'm fine. All right, so my apologies. I think it's 1 1/4. Oh, it's 1 3/8 by 8 1/2 inches. Did I take that from end to end? Well, it looks like I sure did. Okay, so then this is going to sit right here in the middle. Okay, so we'll going to go ahead and dig in here and get our next pieces cut. Now, full disclosure, if you don't want to do this, don't. You don't have to. You can just make square panels, and you can use the square of this, but this is where I got it. So what I did was, these two come together approximately like so. I cut around the images, and then I kind of went down half, and then I trimmed this. So I cut the cardstock to match what I've done here. Does that make sense? So this ultimately, well, first off, it is 8 1/8 in its height, and its overall width is going to be at about 5 1/8, depending upon how you trim out your circle. And the reverse side, and so we're like so. Now, I'm not real good at freehand cutting, but I did the best that I could. And then when you turn this over on the reverse side, I have this piece here. So then over here is this piece right here. But when you turn this over, it will be this 12 by 12 that we're going to cut into. And the back side is this striped. Now, I made some cutting errors, so I had to kind of tape together this. I'm not, like I said, I'm not that perfect at trimming. So it just takes a little bit of patience. Measurements would be the same. You've got a 1/2 inch score on both of them. So just take your time. These will set your pattern piece. So you cut out the circle, cut them in half, and then just put this on black cardstock, cut the height. I put it on black cardstock, and then I just very carefully took my scissors and followed it around. And like I said, it's not perfect. But I wanted to have a different element on the flaps. And now you can see why I did this, was to kind of enhance what's going on here on this bottom flap. So I'm going to go ahead and get these mounted on. You're going to center them because they do not go the full height of the page or of the base. Prematurely sticks, and then I get my groove goes away. There we go. And then I'm going to take this one and I'm going to add it. Oh. I want them to be as even as possible. So they'll overlap just a bit, and it won't matter which one really is on the top or not. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in now. We'll add the rest of the flaps as we go. because I've got some different things going on here. And I have to tell you, I made some major cutting mistakes when well, they weren't really, well, they were cutting mistakes when I first started this. So I actually ruined almost an entire 12 by 12 piece of paper. So to finish what I had intended, I had to dig into the matching 12 by 12, and it's the clocks. So you're going to find that we'll be playing with several clock pieces, and they will come from more than one sheet of 12 by 12. But like I said, I'm not perfect. I make boo-boos. Okay, so these are going to go this way. And then we're going to take, you're going to cut into this piece. So you got this back panel, and it's going to sit here. And I need to verify something before you go digging into. Okay, this came out of one of the 8 by 8s, not the 12 by 12, but one of the 8 by 8s. And then the same with this. This one also came out of the 8 by 8. And this is where I made a major cutting mistake, and I had to tape it back together. And then this is going to sit in here. Okay, I need to pull that back a little bit. Can I get this without, yeah. Come on. Okay, I need to, what am I, good grief, Charlie. You are sometimes an airhead. Okay, I'm gonna pull this back just a little bit toward the hinge, so I've got a little bit of a larger black arch going on there. Okay, so when you get these two put on, this is what it should look like. And then on the underside. Now we're going to come back to this because we're going to do some funny little pockets. You're going to cut a piece that's going to measure 3 inches by 4 3/8. And you're going to place this down here, and then you're going to trace along the arch to trim this out. Now, again, if you're using a die or a punch, then you're going to need to make allowances for that in your height. And the top of my punch had an 1/8 of an inch seam, a crease, so that's where I planted this. So my total height on this came in at 3 1/8 of an inch when I was done. And then this will sit down here just in front of that score line and follow the arch all the way up. And then the clock pieces, you may not be able to cover these yet because you're not going to get to the papers that have the clock on it until we get to the next flap. But you can go ahead and set your pockets. And I did the same thing. I traced around it on the bottom, and then I cut it to fit. Now I'm also playing with some small tags. These are by Grafix 45, but I'm taking the small tags that Stamperia has and I'm using a small die. Now, if you don't have this die set or these tags, if you want to make tags, whatever tags you have will suit just fine. And I'm using 4.5 inches of black ribbon, and they're going to sit in like so. So I'm going to come over here. And the same thing, same measurements. Sneak up to that score line, follow this around, and I need to trim this down just a bit. There we go. And again, I'm using some of the scraps from the clock trim on this side, and once again we'll be cutting into that here next, so you'll be able to come back to these and cover them. Okay, and then I did the same thing here with this tag. So that's what I have here, and then we've got the outside. All right, let's play with the next 2 panels. Including my die plus the 1/8 that I lose because it cuts it off at the top, this will trim out to a total width of 5 1/8 of an inch. And then these will be at 8 5/8 because that's the height of our base page. You will score at a 1/2 inch, and then you will score at 5/8 of an inch. And then this is going to come in here, and it needs to wrap around what we have here because we've got quite a bit of bulk. So you're going to bring this up to the 5/8 score line. Come on, I must have something on the end of my tip. And you're going to let this wrap right around. This is where I made my major cutting error. And so I had to change up this whole appearance. These are supposed to lap over each other. Now let's just double check this width. So again, I'm a 5 1/8 across by 8 5/8 in your height. You have a 1/2 inch score and a 5/8 of an inch score. And then once again, we want this to wrap around. We'll be right on top that 5/8 score line, which opens up the hinge so that this can wrap around. And I have my flaps underneath are fighting each other. Okay, there we go. Get that settled in there. These two are fighting each other. All right. So as the results here is these end up almost coming into the center, and that was not my intention. So, all right, so now what we will do is now you will pull out this piece, one of the sheets, but because of my cutting error, I ended up using both of these sheets. So you'll see more scraps of this being used. than one sheet will provide, and that's because I cut into two. So I'm hoping that you don't have, you may have to cut into it just to match what I'm doing, is a sad piece about it. But I'm alternating, so I'm going, the reverse side is going to be over here, and I trimmed this so that I had this on the edge, so this coloring would grab these and vice versa. So they'll be like so. And then on the inside, you have this grid pattern. And we're going to put that here on the inside of these flaps. So I am going to go ahead and glue, and this is another one of the blue sheets that we had cut into. Be mindful of your score lines, that you're not setting your paper on top of it. Okay. So on the inside here, we're going to make a couple of pockets, and we will use some of this, but I'm going to use the reverse side. Now my pocket, to include, I'm not including the tip. I'm just including that 1/8 of an inch lip that is beneath it on my die. So I am at 2 3/8 in the overall cut on this by 3 3/8. I forgot to put some tape on this, so bear with me just a second. And I am using 2 different dies just so that it creates a different look throughout this album. And like I said, you don't have to use a die at all. You don't have to use a punch. There's that one. Uh-oh. Well, I guess I'm reversing them. I put this on the wrong side, and because, did I Charlie. I did too. Oh, I've got to take this off. You know, I started out with a major mistake on this, and it has just left me totally rattled. So I apologize. So if you've got yours down, if you've glued yours, I apologize. Just leave it, and you'll just end up flipping it. What is supposed to go here is this. So I've cut into some of this. This will lay here. My overall width on this, not in, I'm just coming now to the round. And this ends up being 1 3/8 in total height, 1 3/8 by the height of your paper. And then depending upon the accent that's on your die, you may be a little bit higher, which is what I have here. I've got this scalloped edge. I call it a scalloped edge. It's not quite scalloped. There's a different word for it, and I don't know what it is. And right now my brain can't focus on it. Okay. I'll get this set right here in just a second. Like I said, have a bit of brain fog going on. Okay, and then when I trimmed these, make sure that your wording is not upside down. And I trimmed it so that I had, again, that blue accent here across the top, blue and black. So this will go in here like so. So you end up with a pocket here. And now we're going to do the same thing over here. And I need to get some tape on this. And I think some of you from previous albums actually have this die, both of these dies, because I've played with them a lot. They're by Pink Fresh Studios, but I will tell you they're out of production. So it isn't going to do much good unless you can find them on eBay or maybe Etsy. Okay, and then this piece, making sure the blue is up here on the top, and this was one of the pieces that I had to salvage that I made a major cutting error on, so it's got some tape on it. And, you know, I try to be honest. I make mistakes. And I'm not going to cut my video to eliminate them. I'm just not going to do that. So I'm not perfect. So this is what we end up with. This is my intent right here. Now we're going to close these. And I had the clock pieces on the left, and then I had the wording that's on the back of this piece is over here on the right, and that's where this should have gone, was over here on the front side. And then I did the reverse. Here you go, which way's right? Goes this way. And then this one went over here. So we had some alternating patterns going on here. Now I need to cut this one down because it's taller than this one. Par for the course. I don't know about you, but boy, when something goes haywire, it goes haywire. And there's you get kind of rattled a little bit, and then you're trying to salvage it. Okay, make sure this is fitting on here right. Okay, so this is good to go. I gotta erase them. Okay, let's get this on. Did I ink this? No, I did not. I'm using a black archival ink this time when I'm inking my edges. If you are not an inker, that's fine. If you don't have black archival ink, that's okay. If you've got a black ink that will work, go ahead and use it. Now I have been flopping these around. I know this one goes here. Okay. I want to make sure I'm putting the correct piece on the correct side. This needs some tape on it. I just screwed up. I did dead blast it. Okay, hold on here. I just cannot cut a break on this. But that's okay. Once I get past this one, the next one will go so much smoother. Goodness sakes, girl. You are just so... Maybe I didn't have enough coffee this morning. My brain's not fully functioning. Okay, now this will fit here on this side. Okay, now we'll put this one down. Oh, I need to cap this off before it evaporates. Okay, so then this. We'll go down here. Make sure it's right side up or the words are going to all be upside down. Okay, so now you have here two complementing pockets. And now we're going to add on the next set of flaps. Let's start with the one that's going to be on the right-hand side. My cutting surface was 7 1/8. No, 7.5 inches. I'm sorry, I'm looking through this. So 7.5 inches, and then by the time I lost the 1/8 of an inch there, it trimmed out at 7 3/8. And it is going to be 7 7/8 in your height. There will be a 1/2 inch score and a 5/8 of an inch score. This is going to need to wrap around all this work, and we need to come right up to that 1/2 inch score line. So it might need to be just a tad bit in front of it because we've got a lot of bulk there. So this will wrap around. Okay. All right, so if you have not trimmed out yet, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to fix this, and I'll just have to trim my paper. This 1/8 of an inch hinge is not deep enough, wide enough to wrap around the bulk of the work that we have. So I am going to rescore this so that I have a score at a 1/2 inch, but then I'm going to rescore at 3/4 of an inch. And I'll have to do that on the next, on the left side panel as well. We need that 1/4 inch to get up over the hinge. So I will trim down my paper a little bit. All right, so this should wrap easy now. Oh, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So this is what it should look like. So you've got a nice flat surface. That's your 1/4 inch hinge that's wrapping the work that's underneath of it. And then we'll make sure it's even, top to bottom. And when I open this up, I am right in front of that 3/4 inch score line. And then this just folds over nice and easy. So I will trim down. Now this is, well, this one's going to be fine because I'm going to allow myself to encroach on this little seam that's right here. So I don't have to cut this. I don't have to cut this one. So you have a 12 by 12 that has this on it. You're going to cut it right smack up the middle. And we're going to use the one on the top and this one. You're going to save this. So this is what you're cutting into. This comes over here. I ended up trimming off about a 1/2 inch on this side right here. All right, so this is going to go here. Now the inside I may have to trim up a little bit, so we'll see. 1/4 inch score. Yeah, I'm going to have to trim this. I'm going to have to trim this a good 1/4 of an inch. So the piece stays the same width that I gave you. It's just you're going to do a 1/2 inch score and a 3/4 of an inch score. And then you'll come in here and you'll trim your papers accordingly. And this is what I'm using. It is the back side of the front side of the paper pack. I'll spit that out yet. And this is what's on the back side. And I do believe this came off the 8x8 pad. And because I've been making mistakes, let me just stop right there before I go any farther. I want to get this next piece on and show you what I'm doing before I go any further. Okay, so I'm going to need to rescore this so that it is at a 1/2 inch score and a 3/4 of an inch score. And I will definitely be cutting up my pieces. So the overall length is going to stay the same. You're just going to have deeper score lines. So this, your initial cutting surface is going to be right at 7 inches. And then depending upon your die or your punch, where I lose an 1/8 of an inch here off the front of the die when it's done cutting, you may or may not. So 7 inches is the start of the cutting surface. And then the height on this is right at 4 and I'm going to call 4.5 inches. This is going to be on the top, and we're going to center this as best as we can. So that's 2 inches. Oh, how did I manage that? Oh my goodness sakes. I am not moving this. I am holding it still. But I do need to straighten this out just a little bit. There we go. Come up and over. I do not know how I managed to do that. All right, square it up a little bit. Now I've got magnets on this side, so it plants here. So I am going to take a tad bit of tape off of a roll that's handy. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add the tape to the back of this magnet. Fold over the excess. Where's my spacer? There we go. And then making sure that this is all squared up. And then I'm going to tape this down for security. There we go. All right, now I got my magnets in. I can go ahead and finish. So we're going to go back to this side. Yeah, I see here it says 8x8, so this is the front of the 8x8. And this is the pattern that's on the back side of it. You know, I cannot win today. I was going to add this element in there, so it's okay. Not including the tip. This is coming in at a finished cut is 4 3/8. So I started out at 4 1/2. And it is 5 5/8. And I wasn't sure how I was gonna, anyway, take the tape off. This is going to go in the center. Centered as best as I can. Now with hopes that this is going to lay in here the right way. Nope, I need to pull this back a little bit. So what I need to do is I need to pull this all the way up to the decorative edge and try and center it as much as possible. Much better. I couldn't make up my mind which way I was going to mount this, so I taped it on both sides of the hinge. Come on. Let's try this again. I don't want that tape to show, so I'm being careful when I'm laying that down. And then I was putting this card here. I'm wondering what would happen. Oh, perfect. So I'm going to take advantage of the magnet that's on the front side of this, so that I can put a magnet here so that this will stay closed. See, now it will stay closed. Okay. So I took one of the cards. You pick any card you want, but this is the one I picked. Be splendid and choose adventure. And I'm going to put it on the front. And then on the underside, I cut into this piece once again so that you're seeing the grid pattern. And I had taken a tag and I had cut off the bottom of it. And I'll show you where I put the bottom piece. It was like this. This is what the tag looked like, but I wanted this on the front of the album, but now I have this wonderful piece right here, and I'm just going to create a tuck right here using this piece. And I'm just going to glue this down. And that leaves the rest of this on the reverse side available for journaling or putting in a small photo at the top. There are several pieces of paper in this collection that have journaling possibilities on them, and I will take full advantage of that. So then we take, I'm not going to lose that scrap, so we're going to use it right there as a tuck. So there we go. You might want to finish what you were doing there, Charlie. Okay, we're going to put a small pocket here across the bottom. The finished cutting length is at 1 5/8 of an inch. I started at 1 3/4, and it is 6 3/8 in length. And it's going to go right here at the bottom. I think I'm going to have to trim this up. I am, because this is going to interfere with this, so I'm just going to take a little bit off the edge. I take more. Well, I did not anticipate that. That is for sure. So I will have to give you a different length. And I have just totally gummed up my trimmer. Okay, so now we ended up at 6 1/4. So that should go from right there. Oh, that's why, because I increased this down here to a 1/4 inch gusset. That's why I lost some length on this. Couldn't figure out, could not have been off that much. There we go. And it's because I expanded that. All right, I'm gonna have to trim this up a little bit. Boy, I don't like how I'm placing this, so I apologize. And then I want to put this on here, so I'm only going to glue about the half of it, the bottom half. This is interfering. Oh, for Pete's sake. Okay, I'm moving on. I will fix that later. Okay, so on the inside over here on this piece, I pulled out of scraps this piece of paper. It will fall short, but it doesn't, I'm going to make a pocket out of it. It's not even cut straight because it's one of my cutting mistakes. So I get 2 things out of 1 I'm going to get to cover up the cutting mistake. And I did it again. You know what? That's because, again, I took some length away from with taking that hinge to, I'm taking it out on my trimmer. Oh, Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. Oh, that's so much better. Oh, is the glue gonna stick? No. Okay, making a little tiny pocket. This pocket is going to, the cutting surface is going to start at, for me, was at 1.5 inches, but it ended up being 1 3/8. So depending upon what you're using, whether it be nothing at all, a punch, or how your die trims out, you want to be able for it to be tall enough to cover this piece down here. And I bet I'm gonna have to shorten this up because I increased, I do. see what I do to myself? But at least you're not making the mistakes I'm making. So my overall length on this, once I got it all cut, is 5 3/4 inches. And I want to come, for me, I'm coming just inside that 3/4 and I'm going out to the end of my paper. And then I've chose this piece here to cover the cardstock. Okay. And then the outside, it will be this piece here. Okay. And then this piece. We'll get this centered in here. need to look at something. See, this is not, see how cockeyed that is? So I need to lift this, which means I'm going to need to undo this right here just a little bit. And I need to pull this back. And that should fix that. Okay. And then I need to fix this. And I have to fix it, or I would stop and just be done with it. But I have to fix this or this isn't going to close. So I'm going to make a drastic cut into it. I hate to do this, but I have to. Okay, so now I am really hoping I'm done with this, for Pete's sake. Okay. Let's turn it over. Let's put some tape on the back side. And let's get this in your album. This ended up being a little bit bigger than I wanted. But I'm glad it's on the panel, not a page. Okay, it'll sit in here like this. Bring it almost to the end, and then I'm going to balance it from top to bottom. And then I'm going to remove the rest of the tape backing. Burnishing it pretty firmly. Get the, I don't know if you can hear the air or the tape cracking, but I needed to get that down in there pretty good. Okie dokie. So now we're done. All right, That was a long one. I apologize. I promise I'll keep the next one shorter and hopefully have my mojo back. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.